Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the gas station. This is Wednesday, December 20th. How y'all are? Getting close to Christmas, man. I hope y'all starting to button this stuff up, you know. I did. I'm good to go. I've done all I can do. You know, I as bad as Gail wants them, we have no grandkids or anything to have to worry about. So it's just us adults. Anyway, drinking a Yoo-Hoo. I'll bet it's been 30 years since I had a Yoo-Hoo. I didn't even know they did them in cans. I remember bottles. But I wanted something to drink, and I saw that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have a Yoo-Hoo chocolate drink. Let's see, what is happening? A couple of weeks ago, I did a story time video from here, talking about one of my Chicago stories. And I mentioned I had more. I wasn't there very long, but I'm telling you what, that's a hopping town. I had all kinds of fun and exciting things happen to me in Chicago for the short period I was there. But I said I would do another, save that story for another story time. So here you go. You get it. Some of you guys like my story time videos. Some of you don't. The title says story time videos. If you don't like them, you don't have to watch them. You don't have to watch them and comment and say, I don't like these kind of videos. I told you that. I get comments like that. Trust me. If you don't like them, don't watch. That's all. I try to cater to everybody. I do videos for everybody. So, in Chicago, just the backstory real quick. I was in Houston, and in the mid-'80s, Houston died, 84, something like 85. It just flat died. There was no work. Everybody was laid off, the whole city. So, there was a printer envelope house in Chicago that wanted to hire me. Like, okay. Gail's from Chicago. She was born in Blue Island, raised in Blue Island, Illinois, went to school there, graduated high school in Blue Island. And so there was a little bit of familiarity there. She had family there. We had been there on vacation once before. So we decided to move there. And the way we did it, her mom and dad lived in Winona, Minnesota at the time. So she went to Winona with Nick. We only had Nick then. And was going to stay there until I got my logistics squared away in Chicago, found an apartment, get a place to live, get her moved it, all that preliminary stuff. It was only going to be, 6-8 weeks before I could get everything together. So I'm staying in this hotel in North Chicago, where I worked at. And I would, drive to work every day and drive back, I don't like living in hotels, but you just do what you got to do and make the best of it. I met a guy who also lived there. When I left for work in the morning, he would be at the bus stop. And, I would get home at night, and usually within 15 minutes, he's getting off the bus there. There's a bus stop across the street there from the hotel. So, and I socialize with him. I socialize with anybody. I'm a nice guy. You know that? I mean, you treat me nice, I'll treat you nice. I give everybody an opportunity. So I socialized with the guy. Come to find out he's gay. That doesn't mean shit to me. I don't care. I'm not. So why would it ever bother me? And that is important. I mention that only because it's going to come up later in this story. So hang around. There's your suspense. So anyway, I asked him, where do you work and blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out he worked a couple of bus stops past where I work. Same route. So I said, look, if you want, you can, in the mornings, I'll ride you down to where I get off at from work. Then you got a short little bus ride to get to your place. You get off about the same time I do. Just jump up here and I'll pick you up here and drive you back up to the hotel when I come up. And that worked out fine. I mean, you know, he appreciated the hell out of that. So we did that for, you know, a couple weeks. And he came up, it was a Friday, he came up to work. You know, I was getting ready to get off. And he asked me if, you know, I would want to stop and have a beer. You know, it was Friday night. He really appreciated what I was doing for him. I'm like, you know, all right, I'll stop and have a beer with you. Then we'll head on back. It's Friday night. So, of course, we go to some gay club because I have no idea where I am. But again, it didn't bother me a bit. We're sitting in a bar, drinking a beer. He's talking to a friend of his, and he asked me, he said, look, his friend needs to go to his grandma's house to get some money, and he wanted to know if I could give him a ride. I'm like, I don't want to do that shit. That's not what I'm here for. Oh, it's real close, blah, 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 blah. Frank, his name is Frank. Frank, I really don't want to, man. I just want to, you know, have a beer or two and then head back to the hotel. Well, you know, we'll give you gas money and everything. It's like, well, shit. You know, once again, nice guy. I said, all right, let's head on over there. You know, if it's close by, it can't be too bad. Well, we go to this part of town, and anybody that's familiar with Chicago will know this name when I say it. I didn't know it. I had no idea what it meant. We went to Cabrini Green. Okay, remember that name. So, I'll go this way, go left, go blah, blah, blah. There's my grandmother's house, so park on up the street there. I'm like, all right, so I park. I had a early 70s or mid 70s Toyota Corolla, 5-speed, fantastic little car. I had that in the 79 Grand Prix. Gail had the Grand Prix in Minnesota. So, you know, I pull over to the side of the road and I stop, right? And I got to noticing, I mean, like, there's this crowd starting to build around a little bit, right? And I asked Frank, you know, I'm like, are we this gonna be all right? You know, because it seemed kind of odd to me. And they were all black people. And like I mentioned in the other video, Chicago was super, super segregated back then. I mean, each little area, these were Germans, these were Polish, this was Italian, this was Puerto Rican, this was Cuban, this was black, this, you know, and you didn't mess around. I mean, I knew enough about Chicago not to do that. So I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous. And this Chevy Impala pulls up next to me. I look over at him, right? I'm like, okay. Got 4 big old black dudes in that thing. I'm like, how you doing? You know, I don't know what to say. Well, they back up and get over and pull behind me. And I told Frank, I looked over at him and I said, dude, if they get out of the car, your friend is walking. Now, I'm getting nervous. I don't know what's going on around here. Well, all 4 doors open up at the same time on that car. And I'm like, I got the car running. I'm trying to get the clutch in, get the thing in gear, right? And I killed it. You know, I was just so scared. And one of the guys comes up to the car window, flips out his badge. I'm like, oh, thank God they're cops. You know, I was really happy. Then the panic of, oh shit, the gun. Well, in the Grand Prix, in the console, I kept Gail's service revolver. Well, she had come to visit. She took the Grand Prix back, so I didn't have the gun with me, and I was really glad of that because I didn't need them finding a gun in my car. And you know, I rolled down the window. They said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, this guy's friend needed to get some money from his grandma or something like that. You know, I don't know. I gave him a ride out here. I'm waiting on him to come back." And the cop's like, "I don't believe that. I think you're here to buy drugs." I said, "I don't do drugs." You know, get out of the car. So they're all standing around, you know. I'm like, okay, I got out of the car. That's what I was told to do. Frank gets out. They put us over on the sidewalk over there, and they commenced to tearing my car apart, looking for drugs. I'm like, they couldn't find anything, of course. I said, I told you, I don't do drugs. He said, well, whoever his friend is, I'll bet he's here to buy drugs. I said, I don't know. He told me he needed to get some money off his grandma. That's all I know. Well, if he comes back and he's got drugs on him, you're going to jail along with the rest of them. I'm like, well, shit. And, I said, listen, I understand how this works. My wife was a deputy down in Houston, deputy with the sheriff's department down in Houston. I said, I just ask you to do me one favor. If I have to get arrested, if he comes back and he's got drugs on him, and you're going to arrest me, give me about 2 minutes alone with him over by that bush over there. And that cop started laughing. He looked at there kind of laughing. I said, all right, Mr. Waller, we'll do that for you. I said, okay, I appreciate that. Because I was going to beat the shit out of that guy if he came back with drugs on him. So we're standing there, and here he comes down the street, right? They nabbed his ass, searched him. He didn't have any drugs on him. I'm like, oh, thank God. So now, things have mellowed a little bit as far as these 4 cops. But by now, we have a huge crowd surrounding us, right? And that cop said, let me tell you something. You're white. I said, yeah, I know. You got Texas plates on your car. Yeah. You ain't getting out of here. You are not going to be able to make it out of here, probably. I just want you to be aware of that. I'm like, oh my God, what are you telling me? He said, dude, you're in Cabrini Green. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. He said, these are the projects. This is the drug capital of Chicago. Chicago PD doesn't even like to come in here. I'm like, oh, shit. All right, what am I supposed to do? I mean, He said, let me call some cars in here. We'll escort you back out to Lakeshore Drive. I'm like, okay, now I'm really scared because I'm telling you, it is a big crowd of people. He said, get back in your car and wait. So I got back in the car. Other cops came up. So it wound up being there was Chicago PD in the front, a marked car. Then these 4 guys were in their car after that one. Then me. And then 2 more Chicago PD in marked cars. And we're starting to head out. They got their lights on, and I'm driving like, trying not to look at these people who are all looking at us, And we got to the Lakeshore Drive, we got out of there. And, they waved me off, and I waved to them and tried to, I super appreciate that. They have no idea how much I appreciated what they did for me. And so I'm heading back over to that bar to drop this idiot off. Right? And he's like, oh, man, I saw what was going down, so, I didn't bring anything back with me. And I just turned around and said, you shut your mouth. Don't you ever say a word until we get back to the bar. Don't you talk, boy, Frank starts saying, Joe, I'm really sorry. You shut up, too. Nobody talks, period. Right? Drove back to the bar. The dude in the back got out and took off running down the street. Frank, we got out. He walked around the front of the car. I walked up on the sidewalk, and I hit that son of a bitch as hard as I could hit him. Laid him out. Right? Then I helped him get back up. And I'm like, you ever do anything like that to me again, and I will kill you right here on the spot. I guarantee you. I've never been so afraid in my life. I can't believe you would do that to me. So I went in, had another beer, calmed down. Frank, I don't know where the hell he went to drink that day. He wasn't sitting next to me anymore. I finished my beer, and I left. I don't, He wasn't ready to go. I didn't care. I went back to the hotel room. Next morning, I saw him, at the hotel. And I said, do you want to, I said, look, I'm sorry I hit you. I shouldn't have hit you, but the adrenaline was built up so bad I couldn't help it. And I said, I'll give you a ride if you want to go, So it lasted another couple of weeks, before we got an apartment in Arlington Heights in Southwest Chicago, and then Gail could move out there. But I'll tell you, that was the scariest thing. You have no idea how scared I was, because everybody will tell you white people did not go into Cabrini Green and come back out of it. Thank God somebody was looking out for me. But I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. Well, I mentioned we went up there on vacation once before I moved there. And I was at her uncle's house in Blue Island. And I drove up State Street. People that from Chicago, they'll know what I'm talking about. And I took State Street all the way downtown. Now, I don't know if you've seen the TV show. There's a TV show called Good Times. It was all about a family in the projects in Chicago with J.J. Walker and, and in the opening scenes, you see all these giant, 30-story projects all along the road there. Well, that's where it was. I saw those buildings and I'm like, wow, this is cool as shit. So I drove on downtown. I turned around and went back down to her uncle's house. And we're sitting there, and I have this video camera. Even back then, I got it when Nick was born. It was an RCA, held it on your shoulder and had to carry the tape deck with you with the VCR tape in it. But I was like, look, I need somebody to drive me down State Street so I can videotape all these projects and show to my friends in Houston, because we don't have anything like that. And her uncle's like, are you crazy? Nobody's going to drive you down State Street to be videoing like that. I'm like, okay, I don't know. In Houston, we didn't have problems like that. There wasn't, any of that. Houston grew so fast, there wasn't any time to get segregated anywhere. But yeah, that scared the crap out of me. I left because of my other story, because of these stories, It just, Chicago made me very nervous. I didn't like Chicago. I liked Chicago. We went to the museums. They're fantastic. Went to the zoo. Chicago Zoo is great. Brookfield Zoo. It's fantastic. But the more I learned about the real Chicago, the less enthused I was about living there. So, I went and said, look, we got to go. We can't, I'm not going to work here anymore. And I moved to Cincinnati, which is where I was from. I went to work for a direct mail house there, stayed there for 20 years or whatever, until the owner died. But yeah, I could only do a few months in Chicago. But man, there's some stories to tell, I swear, I went there one time after we moved to Cincinnati. Xerox had a thing once a year in Chicago called DocuWorld. Because you know about Xerox and Docutex and DocuPrints, That's the kind of equipment I ran. And so once a year, Tom would send me out to Chicago for the DocuWorld. They introduced all the new equipment and new technology, and they have workshops and, all these conferences. So I would go, and, it was every year they held it, so a lot of people went, and we would meet, and then we'd see each other the next year and the next year, and, it was pretty cool. I had company credit cards, so we'd go out drinking, It was over with on Saturday. So after the conference ended, we went out to have a few beers on Michigan Avenue. That's where all the bars were. And we're, down there. My hotel was like real close there. could walk. I didn't have to drive down there. So we ran into this guy. He was a Jose Cuervo representative, and he was selling Jose Cuervo to all the bars down there. Well, we met. I still had, I'd recently moved from Texas, so I still had that slow drawl, that Texas drawl. And man, that dude latched onto that shit. He said, "Dude, you come with me. We're gonna go sell some tequila." And we were in the bars. I mean, that guy paid for me and my buddies. I mean, we never had to spend a dime. Teaching everybody how to do shots of tequila with the lime and the salt. That was a good time. Oh man, I was so drunk. It was unbelievable. And had to go back to Cincinnati Sunday. But, yeah, I mean, I don't regret my time in Chicago. Chicago wasn't made for Joe Waller. That's all I can figure out. Or Joe Waller wasn't made for Chicago. And it wasn't the fact it was a big city. I mean, I lived in Houston for a long time. So it's not like I wasn't used to a big city. But that was just such a strange city. And again, I mentioned it before, I don't know if it's still that way or not. I know it was back then. I just never thought I would ever see anything so segregated. But again, I don't know if they still are or not. But I have, a few other stories I might divulge later on. Anyway, that was just killing time while I was here at the gas station. It's not that busy. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. You been to Chicago? Been to Winona, Minnesota? I've been everywhere. I'm telling you guys, you have no idea. I have been, that song, I've been everywhere? I've been everywhere. And some places twice even. I was applying for a job one time, and the guy asked me if I had a driver's license. I said, hell, I got a driver's license in 7 states. I'm wanted in 4 of them. He didn't see the humor in that and wouldn't hire me. But I'm done. I really am. I swear to God, I'm done for the night. I got to lock up in here. But if I don't see you before, I will. I'll be doing my Saturday night from the cabin, so I don't have to say if I don't see you before, because I certainly will. Some of you, if I don't get to see you Saturday night, or I might do a video Friday. I'm going out Friday. I'm going to take Bentley with me, because he hasn't been out there with me yet. Rex has. But now I got the porch all set up. I'm going to take Bentley out there for the day and night. Gail's going to Cincinnati to visit her friend. And on her way back, she's going to stop by the cabin. She may stay Friday night and come back home Saturday. Or if she comes back Friday, she's going to bring Bentley back with her. But at least we get to spend, it's supposed to rain Saturday and Sunday. We got chances of rain. So Gary's coming out. I got to give him his Christmas presents. And he's got some of those 4-foot LED lights that we're going to hang some in the barn and finish up the electric in the barn, because, like I said, probably raining again. I can't do anything with the tractor. I can't even drive down to the barn. It's so soupy again. It's not getting a chance to dry up. But, I'll be doing something like that probably, and be doing my live stream Saturday night. But I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Finish up that shopping, get out there and get it done. I'm about done. I can't think. Like I said, we're lucky. We don't have grandkids to worry about. I don't have family to worry about. There is no family to, I got some friends that we exchange gifts. And Gail, when I left tonight, Gail was baking a bunch of banana bread and cookies and cupcakes for work. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And it was smelling good when I left, so I'm anxious to get back home and I guess the dogs have been taste testing for. But yeah, I'm gonna get off of here, go home, and get this thing uploaded. Hope y'all have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to y'all soon. I'm out.